my friend, chord substitutions. Very quick, under 2 minutes, you're gonna love this. When we play in any key, there are 7 chords. The 7 chords are based off of 7 notes. These 7 notes in the Western world are called intervals. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. On the guitar, or most instruments that are stringed or have frets or on the fretboard, like a violin, cello, when they're tuned in fourths, meaning when we go up 4 notes, do, re, mi, fa, the next note is that note. Guitar has a special tuning because it's in fourths, except for the G string, which is in thirds to a B, and then it resumes that and goes right back to the fourths. Violins, mandolins, they're in fifths. Stuff like this that has different tunings. You can learn your own instrument chords, but what we're basing it on is called a triad. So for every instrument, finger placement determines one of 4 types of chords. One is a major, one is a minor, one is gonna be a diminished, and then one's gonna be like an augmented. Most people don't make it to that last one because there is no augmented chord in the explanation of a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. When we do something like that, you would have to go outside of your means to find why the augmented is the augmented. Now let me break it down into brass tacks. C, E, G, major. C, when we play an E flat, and then we play, oh, that was a 1, 3, 5, sorry. 1, 3, 5, major. C, E, G, 1, 3, 5. That is a minor, and then we have 1, 3, flat, 5. That's a diminished. And what happens is all of our different tones of scales involve one of these notes being sharpened or flattened, augmenting or diminished. Therefore, when you play any scale as a major and you view it through the eyes in the major, the augmentation comes down to 1, 2, 3, 4, Lydian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat, 7, 1. These are 3 different modes. One is called Ionian, the next one is called Lydian, and then the last one is called Mixolydian. Those are the modes in order from start to finish, but in order of lightness to darkness, as far as tonality, we would have our Lydian. We would have our major chord, our Ionian, and then our Mixolydian. After that, we get into the minor ones. Dorian, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C. Our Dorian is our minor, which is our Aeolian, which is our next mode. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. The only difference between Aeolian and Dorian is there is no flat 6. It's a natural 6. Cool. And then the next one would just have our flat 2. We'd have 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. That's called Phrygian. And then the last one's called Locrian. 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Blah, 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 blah. What we're here today to find out is when you change any note in any of these systems, you are changing all of the chords that have that note. So when we're playing something like A minor in the key of C major, we can alter our minor scale to put back in that 6th and 7th. It would be called the submedian or the lending and or leading tone. By altering our minor 6 and our minor 7 to exhibit a major 6 and a major 7, we are giving back tonalities to the A minor that had been taken away from the major case. So here's the key of A, why not? A major, when we turn it into A minor, we just don't flatten the 3rd to get a minor, we flatten the 3rd, 6th, and 7th, which gives us from A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. If we add back in those last 2 intervals, C stays, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. We get something called melodic minor, melodic ascending, essentially. In most schools of music, you would go down descending in a natural minor or Aeolian. And then other than that, our harmonic minor just doesn't have the major 6, it only has the major 7th. Very cool, feels very like... Loving it. So the whole idea behind this is if you're going to play in the key of C major and you have something like C major, G major, E minor, D. No, wait a minute. There's There's no D major in the key of C. How about C major, G major, E minor, D minor? You can change any of those chords out for other chords that are already in the key. The key of C, well, the relative minor of C is A minor. So why not try an A minor every once in a while? C, G, E minor, D minor, A minor, G, E minor, D minor. Now how about back to the C? Rather than going to the G, go to the E minor. E minor is a wonderful chord substitution for the G because it's the relative minor. In your progression, if you already had C, G, E, D minor, and you go from C to E minor, well then maybe you could choose G, and then rather than doing G major, do a chordal substitution of G major's third, which is a B, but call it a B flat, which is not in the key of C, but the minor third of G major turned into the seventh, flat 7 of C, gives you these are chordal substitutions. The reason why it's interesting to know a little bit about music theory is there are only so many possibilities you could do, which when you put them in combination with the only other possibilities you could do with other things like progressions, cadences, motifs, licks, I guess you would, riffs, it changes the way that we view all of the individual notes in our chromatic and our diatonic scales. Meaning, when you know a little bit of music theory, it helps you to express yourself with intonation, and then being able to have the note names and be able to see the correlation between other chords is really fun, really where it's at. So, if you dig this video and you wanted to do some chordal substitutions, like how to change out the chords so you're not stuck playing the same chords over and over again with the same progressions, check out my channel, why don't you? And subscribe to be